Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Think and Grow Rich Mastermind Live. My name is Dr. Peter A. James, and I will be your lead host as we dive into this phenomenal book by Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. Today is going to be a phenomenal show because not only do I have my partners in crime with me this morning, Ann McNeill and Galen Bingham, but we also have a special guest who's going to be diving into this auto-suggestion chapter of Think and Grow Rich. We meet here same time every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. And you can join us via YouTube or you can join us via Facebook Live. So many options to be able to stay in touch for sure. But I'm excited about today because, again, as I mentioned, such a special show. I would be remiss if I didn't bring in my co-host, my partners in crime right away. I'm going to even start with the master builder. Many of you know her as the master builder. Ann McNeill, good morning to you this morning.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, Peter. You know, there's power in those spoken words.
Yes.
So the power of autosuggestion and the association with the word crime, I don't know if we really want to promote that. So how about by faith? How about we're your group of angels?
My partners
How's
in
that?
faith, my angels in faith. How is that, Ann McNeill? Angels in faith. Ladies and gentlemen, you are getting a lesson this morning that, yes, words are very powerful. So crime is eliminated from my vocabulary. My angels of faith. Ann McNeill, you are an angel. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you.
How are you doing?
Awesome.
Awesome. Good stuff. Good stuff. I have another angelic host who's going to be joining us this morning. Galen Bingham, good to see you, sir. How are you doing today?
Fantastic, fantastic. Great to be here. I sensed that conversation was coming. I had a feeling that conversation was coming. And the reason I sensed that it was coming is just what you both of you have said, the power of words. And not only the words that you speak to others, the words that you speak in communities such as this, but the words that you speak to yourself. It always surprises me how people will have success in their life or they will have experiences that they don't quite enjoy. And when you reflect on the words that they've been telling themselves, those experiences are manifestations of what they've been telling themselves. And so I can't wait to get into this more. I can't wait to have the conversation with the guests. I'm going to tell you, these guests get more and more amazing. And today's is no different.
So I want to dive into that right away this morning because it's interesting, especially as we go to chapter 3 of this text, auto-suggestion, and as it even reflect on that phrase, partners in crime, and someone like myself has been using it maybe for decades, a long time in my life, and I'm open-minded enough to accept the fact that, wow, that is a disempowering statement. Right? Partners in crime. And how can I shift my vocabulary, shift my verbiage? Because as Ann McNeill said, words are powers and they also seep into our subconscious. We're going to talk about that today. And by shifting the narrative, even just on your words, how can you begin to speak power into your life? Power on a day-to-day basis. So thank you for bringing that to my awareness, Ann McNeill. That is gone from my vocabulary, and now I'm going to adopt more powerful words in a la auto-suggestion of Napoleon Hill's great book. Good stuff. Good stuff. Right off the top, we're just getting right started. But I wanted to also bring on our distinguished guest. We have Anthony Rodgers joining us this morning, and I'm going to bring him out right away only to say good morning to you, Anthony. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Anthony, you've heard our discussion so far that there's power in vocabulary, correct?
That's correct. That's absolutely correct.
And I'm not going to dive into you just yet. I wanted to bring you out right away just because of the fact that, I think your background, your history precedes itself. I'm looking at your bio right now, and it's really robust, for lack of a better word. I'm choosing my words very carefully now, and McNeill for sure. It's really robust, and I want to dive into some of the things that you've done for sure, and talk about your successes and maybe even some of your setbacks along the journey. But before we do, I want to ask Galen a question really quick. Galen, there's many people who are watching this show who are not familiar with Think and Grow Rich, and they're not familiar with this text just in general. And there are 13 very familiar steps of this book. Can you kind of introduce them to us to a certain extent?
Yeah. So this is a philosophy. It's a entirely complete philosophy. And one of the things that I am always impressed with is how every step builds on the previous. And even when you get later and deeper into the text, Napoleon Hill even says, if you want to really master these latter steps, you got to really make sure you understand the foundation that they sit on. So before we get into this conversation, let's go ahead and take a listen to all 13 of those principles, and just be mindful of how each builds on the previous. Let's go ahead and go in.
Number 1 is desire. Napoleon Hill said that everything starts with a burning desire, a compelling reason for doing what it is we do. Step 2 is faith, having belief in our ability to attain that which we desire. Step 3 is what we call autosuggestion. Autosuggestion simply means being very intentional about the things that we are pouring into our thoughts, into our brains, and into our consciousness. Our brains, our minds will receive everything automatically, but we have to work extra hard to make sure that the positive things are what we are feeding ourselves, because those positive thoughts are going to turn into positive actions. Step number 4 is specialized knowledge. No one person knows everything, even about whatever their particular area of expertise might be. And the value of the MasterMind principle is using the specialized knowledge of other people. Step number 5 is imagination, the workshop of the mind. Everything starts with our imagination and our thoughts, the burning desire to transform those thoughts into our reality. In order to do that, we have to take a look at step 6, which is organized planning. That is how we crystallize our desire into action, organizing ourselves. Having the thought and not acting on the thought isn't going to get us anywhere. We have the thought, we go through the organized planning to transform that thought into action. Step number 7 is decision. What Napoleon Hill said is the mastery of procrastination. Napoleon Hill said that the antidote to procrastination is simply to make a decision and then move on that decision. Step 8 is persistence. We have to have a sustained effort which is induced by our faith in order to achieve our goals. One of Napoleon Hill's books I love, even the title, 3 Feet from Gold. Those people who became rich during the gold rush in the wild, wild west days didn't do that because they were necessarily smarter or had better information than anyone else. It's because they stayed just a little bit longer. Sometimes people left when they were just literally 3 feet from gold. So hanging in there, being persistent, is step number 8. Step number 9, the power of the mastermind, the driving force. None of us can accomplish anything on our own. Everybody, I don't care who you are, from the most prominent person to the person who might be considered the lowest on the totem pole, everybody has someone who helped them get to where they are. And the power of the mastermind is being able to use those influences around us, use the thoughts, use the knowledge, use the exploration of other people to help us in achieving our goal. Step number 10, the mystery of sex transmutation. This title can be a little confusing, but essentially what the mystery of sex transmutation means is that we oftentimes in our society think of sex as being purely physical. It is absolutely physical, but what Napoleon Hill teaches us is that sex also has an emotional element, and that sex is the strongest of our desires. That if we can take our sexual energy, transform that into positive, creative influences, it can propel us to new heights. And so we spend quite a bit of time talking about the mystery of step 10, which is sex transmutation. Step number 11 is the subconscious mind, which Napoleon Hill tells us is the connecting leap between our human mind and the infinite intelligence, the source of all thought, the source of all creativity. Conscious mind, we spent some time talking about how we use that through the influence of autosuggestion and what we're feeding into our mind. Step number 12, which is the brain, the broadcasting and receiving station of thought. Final step number 13, the sixth sense, the door to the temple of wisdom. This is the final step through which infinite intelligence may and will communicate voluntarily without any effort from or demands by the individual. The principle is the apex of the philosophy. It can be assimilated, understood, and applied only by first mastering the other 12 principles.
We are back now. The 13 steps, Galen. What a phenomenal way to start off the show for sure. But this week, we are diving into chapter 3 of the text, Autosuggestion. Autosuggestion for those of you who are following along. And yes, I do see some folks following along on Facebook Live. Imelda Wallace, good morning to you. Good to see you out there for sure. And I see a lot more other comments coming in. Please continue to chime in and let us know if you have questions of our special guest this morning. But Anthony, I'm looking at chapter 3 of the book, and it starts out like this: autosuggestion is the agency of communication between that part of the mind where conscious thought takes place and that which serves as the seat of action for the subconscious mind. So again, good morning to you. And as I look at your resume and your background, I see construction, I see day trading, I see a little bit of politics sprinkled in there, a lot of nonprofit boards as well. You're very robust in all that you do for sure. How has autosuggestion played a role in your history?
It's been a learned form of creativity, because you're only as good as what you know, and you don't know what you know when you're younger. So as you mature, and whoever you attach yourself to, or whatever you seek out, is what is imbued inside of you, and that will blossom and come out. So I've been very fortunate to be around a lot of very powerful, positive, thinking, forward moving people.
Very awesome. Very awesome. Tell us a little about yourself, maybe a little bit about where you're from, and how you, even to a certain extent, maybe even fast forward after you tell us where you're from, how you even got here this morning.
So I'm originally born in Jacksonville, Florida, and I've worked in construction all over the United States, even out in Alaska. And
Wow.
How I got here is from a prayer that I went into the Creator, and I have supper with the Creator every night, and breakfast with
Sure.
Supreme Being. So I went into myself, this autosuggestion, because I use it regularly, and I said, I need help. I need a guest speaker, because I've lost a guest speaker. And out of a joke that my wife was telling me, we wanted to see the Nutcracker, and she said, no, I want to go see the Chocolate Nutcracker. So in essence, I met someone who volunteered to be the guest speaker, but for my particular audience and event, I just so happened to type in the National Association of Black Women in Construction, and there she was, and waiting for me, and without hesitation offered to be my guest speaker, and blessed me with a very rare special edition of the Think and Grow Rich, and reintroduced me to it, and it totally aligns with my spiritual practices. So I was like, she's the one. So here I am.
So what I'm hearing you say there, Anthony, you almost spoke it into existence to a certain extent. You utilize autosuggestion to speak into your existence, your desire for your future, correct?
Yes, I was asking for someone to be, a teacher to me for another level. And you don't know when they're going to come. You don't know how they're going to show up. And I said, it's her. She's the next one.
Yes, yes, she is definitely an angel, as she is detailed earlier in the show for sure as well. One more question before I pass it on to my angelic host, of course. Anthony, again, your progression from as a youth, even to all the things that you've accomplished, I'm fascinated by that. And speak to that. Speak to how the words or autosuggestion has played a life even on each stop. Because I even see right now that you're dabbling in the day trading right now as well. So talk to that a little bit if you could.
So as a child, my parents would always say, because they only knew what they knew. They said,
Right.
You got to get a trade. You got to master something that you can, be good at, that will be able to give you a good living, or you could go to the military. And so I picked up the family trade, which was construction. And I worked around the house when I was, 10, 12 years old, until I was allowed to go out into the neighborhood and help build houses. And, eventually that turned into, spring break, waiting on the truck to pick me up to take me to jobs, or winter break and summer breaks. And so just those words of repeatedly going in my mind that I got to, get the trade, I got to master the trade, that'll help me have a better living. And I saw the people who lived in my neighborhood who had nice homes. They built those homes. And then I became a participant of building those homes. And so I began to speak to say, I'm going to be a builder. I'm going to be a block mason. I'm going to be a brick mason. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And so then the application of a tech school came, by the time I got to junior high school, taking classes in high school. And then my focus changed because I met this tall, burly, strong gentleman named U.S. Army retired Lieutenant Colonel Porter, who graduated from FAMU when I was in like 8th grade. And I saw how he was dressed in his military uniform. So it changed. Everything I learned didn't go away, but my focus and shift changed. And so that form of the auto-suggestion led me to telling my father, my mother. And so they took interest in me, and they sent me to military schools during the summer. So I didn't do construction as much in the summer. I went to military camps, and I was serious about it. And it grew me. And I became the cadet brigade commander in high school, over 2 high schools. I got accepted to West Point, but I chose to attend FAMU because, those were the people who I thought invested in me the most. Mm-hmm. People were disappointed, but the auto-suggestion of me still becoming a top Army officer was there that led me to that point. Yeah. How I got to day trading and through construction was I had a traumatic event happen. I'm not going to get too deep into that, but Sure. It prevented me from going into the military. So I fell back on my trade, and I began to rethink and remaster myself as to how am I going to become this builder, this guy that everyone could depend on, that will have high quality, because I was taught that as a child from my uncle and my grandfather and my father and people who I worked around. They didn't do shabby work. They didn't do shade tree work is what they used to say. And so that led me to going to school at FAMU and getting into the construction engineering program. Even though I still attempted Army ROTC, I just wasn't physically able to do it because of the traumatic event. And I was just for lack of words, a force to be reckoned with in my mind, because I would not stop because of what they instilled in me, not having read the book yet.
Yeah, wow.
So once I did get a hold of the book, when I became an Amway distributor back in 1994, it was a game changer, because now I'm in a theater of coliseums with thousands of people chanting and, listening to tapes and, reading all kinds of other books. And it set me on a whole different path of how to remold myself. And so that helped me in my construction career. And then as a day trader recently, and I've only been day trading for a year, and my anniversary is coming up. So it's been 1 year since I've ever worked for anyone other than myself, totally reliant on day trading by going into myself, practicing self-taught day trading, and, listening to, videos, and, you can't really get it listening to the videos. You have to do it.
Yeah, do it.
And
yeah.
Just practicing in my mind, and then going in on the screen and bringing out what I want.
Good stuff. Good stuff, Anthony. I'm gonna pass the baton here in a little bit to Ann McNeill. And Ann McNeill, I want to first let you know we have some folks chiming in on Facebook Live, on YouTube. I see Johnny Lloyd says good morning to us. Doretha says autosuggestion pushes us in the direction of our dominating thoughts. And I'm even hearing that from Anthony as he's describing his journey overall. Ann McNeill, you do look so angelic this morning. I can't stop. Forgive me for that. But please come on into this conversation and let's chat with Anthony. You have to make sure you come off of mute.
Following instructions here. And good morning, Anthony. It's a pleasure to talk with you again. And also I want to publicly say thank you for the invitation that you extended to me to be your keynote speaker at FAMU for the STEM program and the engineering students, and getting a chance to meet many of the alumni, but also getting a chance to talk about this book and these principles to young people. And so I'm inspired to hear you sharing your young experience. And I want to go to, I almost feel like, the book, if you will, in terms of the other book, which is the Think and Grow Rich book. And I want to just read something that Napoleon Hill shares. And for those of you that are, if you have the book with you, if you go to, I feel like my sermonette here, right? And this is for you, Anthony, and just want to ask you, because you also participate with us sometimes in our Friday morning, 7 a.m. Think and Grow Rich accountability call, you and your wife, your beautiful wife. And so I want to thank you for that too. But one of the things that we do is we talk about the 6 keys, the 6 steps to riches. And Napoleon Hill gives us a formula. And being that you are a day trader now, in addition to being a licensed general contractor and working with Fortune 500 major construction companies, Fortune 100 major construction companies, I want to read into the hearing of our listeners, and then I'm going to ask you a question, right? So Napoleon Hill says that he starts on page 71. This is the power of autosuggestion if you desire money. And Anthony, since you're in the business of money, I just want to make this suggestion that he gives. It's called the Summary of Instructions. And he says that if you're reading this book, it's an indication that you earnestly seek knowledge. It is also an indication that you are a student of this subject. If you are only a student, I know Galen talked about this before, if you're only a student, there's a chance that you may not learn much. But you will learn only by assuming an attitude of humility. If you choose to follow some of these instructions, but neglect or refuse to follow others, you will fail. To get satisfactory results, you must follow all the instructions in a spirit of faith. Now, you just mentioned, Anthony, about the fact that even though you listen to some of the videos and recordings and things like that, but it means absolutely nothing if you don't take action, right? So I do want to read this for all of our listeners and just encourage you all. And this is for you, Anthony, in particular. And I'll go to my question. He says, go into some quiet place, preferably in bed at night, where you would not be interrupted. Close your eyes, repeat aloud the written statement of the amount of money you intend to accumulate, the time and limit for the accumulation, and the description of the service and the merchandise you intend to sell. Now, these are the instructions from chapter 1 on the 6 keys to riches. But the power I'm finding in this, and I'm not going to give the instructions, everybody can read it for yourself, but this is the power of autosuggestion. Having a statement that you read, that you memorize, preferably, and what I'm finding to be so powerful is with my eyes closed, which is a part of the instructions, which I've been missing all these years. But the point is this, and this is my question to you, Anthony. Do you have any kind of statement that you recite or something that you affirm as a part of the autosuggestion? And you talked about earlier in the program, self-suggestion or self-talk. It could be scripture, it could be anything, it could be an affirmation, but do you have something that you use on a regular basis where you're affirming that which you desire? That's my question.
Oh, yes. And so first I want to hold up because I wanted to give the audience that I have a journal. This is my daily diary, and I have dozens of them. They're filled up, and I can go back and review them from years and bring things forward that need to be done. But my auto-suggestion takes at least an hour and a half. I start off with basic, like, before I go to bed, I say I'm a healthy, wealthy, debt-free, dedicated, motivated, wired, tired, never fired, awesome, happy, God, family, businessman. And then that's on the surface. And then I take it in deep. I go into my Kemetic principles and virtues. And then after that, I go into a specific 11 laws. And then I give gratitude for my day. Or if I'm awaking, I give gratitude for waking back up for a new day. And then I have script work. My script work is like me in a movie theater practicing what I'm going to do when I get on stage. And that script work has those details that you just mentioned. The details of what I'm going to do for the day, for a specific person, for something that may take a little while to reach a goal, or even something that may be a year out. And I have a lot of these things noted. Sometimes, people may think you forget about them, but there may be a moment where, you haven't put them to the side. It's just in the suggestive order of things to come. Or if it just happens that it has to be pulled up, then it gets pulled up. But I don't allow myself to get worn down anymore by trying to hold something to a specific spot, unless the infinite intelligence and energy has moved me to go through with it.
Awesome. I just posted the word glory. I just posted that word in the Facebook group because I think you hit the nail on the head, because it is the repetition. And I'm glad to hear you talk about your journaling, because I have a practice I use, which is called a daily date with myself. And I do some similar things, but it's centered around the self-confidence formula. But I want to now also ask you about your children, because we were kidding with Peter right before the program started about some words that are behind him on a whiteboard. And so I know you invest lots of energy in your children. And so I'm going to pivot for a second, if I may, and go to Peter and ask you, Peter, if it's a part of autosuggestion, and then I'm going to come back to Anthony. But as a part of autosuggestion, if you don't mind sharing with our audience what's behind you. Now, for everybody else's benefit, I asked, we talked about the fact that we would remove our backgrounds, and we would have a natural background behind us because it's best for this particular platform. And so when I looked at Peter's background, I was trying to read the words, and I asked him, what are those words behind you? And Peter, if you don't mind sharing, because I think this is very powerful to my question I'm going to ask Anthony.
Yeah, so that a quick little background. My daughter uses my whiteboard behind me more than I do, and she's now starting to write her goals, her affirmations on there as well. And Ann McNeill, I want you to tell everyone she's part of the children's affirmation, actually Children's Think and Grow Rich sessions on Sunday as well. But her goals are to work hard until spring break, to get all A's and B's, and to win first, second, or third place in the poetry contest. She wrote these on the whiteboard this past week, and I just haven't erased them because I wanted to make sure that she could look at them and see them on a regular basis, because those for her are almost like affirmations, and we do talk about affirmations at home as well.
And the reason I wanted him to mention that is because his daughter is a part of our youth mastermind. And I did not make the connection between her being there every Sunday and the fact that she was his daughter. But anyway, our youth every Sunday are memorizing their affirmations and they're affirming what they desire. Now, I say that because I know that Anthony and his beautiful wife do the same thing with their children and have done so for years. So, Anthony, if you can just share with us an example or a process or something that you do, and this is for the benefit of many of us that have children and grandchildren. And I know I have a 4-year-old granddaughter, and she's now listening to, the kids Peppa Pig and all of these things. And from rereading this just yesterday, I realized that what if I gave her, if any of you listen to Tasha Cobbs or something like that, these different spiritual inspirational singers. And so for the first time on yesterday, I turned on a YouTube instead of the Peppa Pig, and I put it in the back seat with my granddaughter as I was driving. And all of a sudden she started singing the words from the spiritual. Now, Anthony, I'm coming to you because I know this is something you've done for years with your children. Can you share with us any one example, please?
So before the book, because we did get into the book, we have the virtues of Ma'at. And so you start off with reconditioning because, there was a lot of things that, being a hard charging parent, you can kind of run past your children, assuming that they're going to take on the things that you're doing from just osmosis. And that's not always the case because they have limited time with you. So we started creating what we call Wisdom Wednesday in our home. And on Wisdom Wednesday, we would cover the virtues of Ma'at, which would be, I control my thoughts. I control my actions. I have devotion to a purpose. I have faith in the ability of my teacher to teach me the truth. I will have faith in myself to assimilate the truth. I will have faith in myself to will the truth. I will not have resentment for any injustice against me. I will not have any resentment for any persecution against me. And I will cultivate the ability to determine right from wrong. And I will cultivate the ability to determine the real from the unreal. And so they would have to practice giving examples of how they're going to control their thoughts, how they're going to control their actions, what purpose are they devoted to, and apply something to each one of those steps from those ancient Egyptian or ancient Kemetic principles. And then we would go into something cultural and then bring it forward to the secular on how it is relevant today. But once we got a hold of the book from you, my wife and I agreed, and she started using the book with them to implement and show them the correspondence, because some people may not identify with what we have. They may like it, but just because they're not familiar, they may not identify with it. So we were happy to be reintroduced the book, to have the ancient version of what we know and to cross it over into what I would consider a corporate or secular modern version, which is a beautiful book, Think and Grow Rich.
Well, thank you. And I just want to remind everybody, these are examples of autosuggestion and the power of how do you really use it? What does it look like? I mean, many of us are taught the Our Father's Prayer, and we say it over and over and over again. And I will admit, and I will confess, it was not until I started reading this book that I had a better understanding of the book. And so with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Peter, and I'm excited for Galen to ask his question.
Yes. And we do have another angel on set for sure. But Galen, I just found this quote by Andrew Carnegie, who's a mentor for Napoleon Hill, and he says, "People who are unable to motivate themselves must be content with mediocrity, no matter how impressive their other talents." So, Galen, as I pass the baton to you and to Anthony, I just want everyone to ruminate on that quote a little bit as we talk about autosuggestion.
Yeah, I think that boy, is that a powerful quote. And I can see how Napoleon Hill took that inspiration from his mentor when he wrote this book, Think and Grow Rich. One of the things that I wanted to read, this is on page 69 of this version of the book, because it kind of sets up my question for Anthony. And that is on page 69, it says, "Remember, there is no such possibility as something for nothing. The ability to reach and influence your subconscious mind has its price, and you must pay the price." And then if you go down to the very bottom of that page, it says your ability to use the law of autosuggestion will depend very largely upon your capacity to concentrate upon a given desire until it becomes a burning desire. So, as that is the backdrop, Anthony, my question to you, and I'm going to borrow a little bit from Miss Ann. It's easy for us to make this sound easy. Tell us about what you do to make sure that you're concentrating your thoughts on those things that you want to occur, and maybe a time when you struggled a little bit and you had to use these strategies to get back on the course that you want to be on. Because one of the things that I've come to understand is that everyone struggles with this. Everyone, the most successful people, they're not immune from struggling with negative thoughts. They're just resilient. They're able to bounce back faster and quicker. And if anyone tells you that they don't ever have negative thoughts, they probably also struggle with delusion, because everyone struggles with this. But they're just able to bounce back quicker. What are some things that you do to bounce back when you see your mind straying to things that are inconsistent with what you want?
First thing I do is breathe. I start breathing, I relax, and I take myself into a place of very, blissful moments and happy thoughts. And then I walk away from the situation for a moment to see my steps. If I've created a script for it, I refer back to the script. If I have not created a script, then I immediately mentally create a script, and then I'll write it out. And sometimes I may get too detailed, but sometimes if it requires that, that's what I do. And then I go back all the way through the steps and I start recorrecting myself. And it can be a challenge, like you said. I have those same challenges, and that's it's actually your inner reptilian self. It's that auto protective part of your being that wants to say, no, you can't spend that amount of money. You can't do that. You have to save. You have to limit yourself to this, versus who you really want to be is on the Tom Joyner, fantastic voyage, and you want to go enjoy life, and you want to be free, and you want to go travel to, Africa or Rome, and you want to see the world. Well, you can do that. You just have to impress upon yourself through the autosuggestion and visualize it. Like Ann said, you have to say, I want to go, and then start making the plans to go. Then get the price for it. Then say, okay, how do I get the extra money for it? Then you do it. You start doing it, and it'll come. Like the field of dreams. If you build it, they will come. Your dreams and goals, they'll come. You start building. So that's just a overview. Now, something very specific was when I was 18 years old, I was shot at close range with a 12-gauge shotgun. And it blew out my it blew out my femoral artery, my vein, and my lymphatic. And I lost a lot of muscles, tissue, a lot. Thank God it didn't break my bone. However, I came through that. They rebuilt me. They experimented on me. My parents allowed them to. And I do keep in touch with those doctors, by the way, who by the grace of the Creator, rebuilt me with their spiritual intuition and science. And so the negative was what they said. You're only going to have this leg possibly 10 years. You may not never really be able to walk again. And that looked really real when you see a hole as big as your fist in your leg and you can't move it and you can't feel it when you're 18 years old. So I got over that because I had praying parents, grandmother, my mother, and other family members. And the one doctor that stood out was this Oriental doctor who brought a book to me, and it had autosuggestion in it. It was a book on martial arts, and he taught me how to go into myself and format a plan to rebuild my leg from within my spirit. But I had to go through classes with him on cells down to the cellular level, what each cell did, their job, their name, to call them out, to tell them what to do, how to reformat veins and arteries in my leg so that I could get the proper nutrients to the areas where my leg was dying and turning black and stiff and getting ready for the stage of gangrene to be cut off. And so he asked me what I wanted to do. And I said, I want to run out this hospital. And he said, well, did you read the book? He said, I see it's on the floor. I said, well, you know, at that time I was Christian. I said, well, I ain't reading that book. And so he said, okay. He sat it on the nightstand, and my mom and my grandma had come to visit me, and I showed them the book, and they looked at me and they said, well, don't you remember Jesus said you can't reject knowledge? And at that time I was like, oh. They said, you better read this book. The doctor said, read the book. So 18 years old, I started reading the book. And it was amazing what I read about how these martial arts persons in these kumites, that they would have their ribs broken, their arms, their femur. I mean, they would just be pulverized. And within a week to 2 weeks of a break to finish these back then, you know, ancient blood sports, I guess you call it, they healed themselves. And they resumed. And so I was so fascinated with it that that's what I began to do. And I did. I didn't run out like zoom out, but I jumped out the wheelchair and I tried it. I tried it out the door, and it began a new life for me. And then about 4 years later, that's when I ran into a group of people who introduced me to Think and Grow Rich. That took me to a whole different level.
Wow.
And that's why I'm running and walking. And I didn't go into the military, but I became a drill team commander, was commander of the year, regimental commander over Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Puerto Rico, all kind of awards, until now a national operations manager to help young people with their military careers.
You know, one of the things I really like about the power in your story is how it relates to life. And it highlights the fact that if you know, a lot of people think that you can just get out of bed on Tuesday and just kind of live your life and things will automatically happen. And that may happen for some people. But I think the thing that I like about what you highlighted is how we have to work at being positive. If we just sit there and let life come to us, then our body, our lives, just like the cells in your leg, they will eventually work their way to gangrene, and there will be no option but to cut it off.
That's right.
But if you are active in trying to create the life that you want to have, then you can, you know, these are the philosophies, these are the principles that will allow you to do it. But you've got to be active. You have to be an active player in your life, as opposed to passive, letting things come to you as it were, or as it would. So thank you so much for the story. Thank you for the example that you're setting, and continued success.
Galen, I love that conversation. As I think about it, it's easy for our minds to go negative all the time. We're inundated with so much stuff on a day-to-day basis, media, social media, just negative thoughts that can infiltrate our minds. We have to work, as you mentioned, at injecting positivity. This autosuggestion is really what that is about. How are you injecting the positivity towards your goals, towards your objectives on a regular basis? And Ann McNeill, I know that, you know, one thing that I love to be able to do around this positivity is surrounding myself with like-minded individuals who are also very positive. And I want to be able to have you talk about our annual meeting that we have every single year that allows me to surround myself with like-minded individuals as well. So can you speak to that just a little bit, please? As you come off of mute and as you come back.
Absolutely. And I really want to pick up something that Imelda Wallace just put in the chat when she said we have to do the work. And so for very many of us, what does that work look like? And I'd like to suggest, as we bring up on the screen the information about our annual meeting, I'd like to suggest to each of us, the work really starts with your desire, not just for the money, but what is it that you desire in every single area of your life? starting with the spiritual area. Anthony talked about his spiritual part of his life. But what is it that you desire spiritually, family wise, financially, health wise, educationally, your personal development, your recreation, your creativity, your business, your career? What is it that you really desire in all of these areas, especially in your civic involvement in serving your community? Well, what we do on an annual basis as a part of the International Mastermind Association is we come together every year in January, and this year coming up is going to be on January 7th and 8th, 2022. But we come together and we bring our life in writing, every single one of those areas that I just mentioned. We set goals for 6 months, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. And right now, I am past my 40th year of setting these goals and doing this exercise. And we talked earlier about Anthony's children. We talked about Peter's children, his daughter in particular. And now I'm working on Galen's daughter. Yes, Galen, I'm coming. And so what we want to do is we want to invite you to click the link. We're going to place the link in the chat. Register now before the price goes up. But more importantly, start now in working on your annual report. If you've attended this event before, I don't call it a conference, I call it an annual meeting for your life. Let's say that again. It's an annual meeting for your life. If you've attended previously, pull your report out and review it with us, right? Look at it and see, what did you say you were going to do? If this is your first time attending, when you register, we will send you the instructions and you can start right where you are in itemizing and detailing what you want for the balance of the year. So when you join us in January in Boca at the Embassy Suites Hotel, on the 7th, which we have a reception that night, and on the 8th, we go through all of the areas of your life in a small setting. This year, we were blessed to still have the event, even in the midst of COVID. We wore our mask and we were very safe. And what I like to do now, Peter, because our special guest, Mr. Rodgers, attended with us this year for the very first time. So Anthony, if you would share any thoughts from your experience from attending the annual meeting this year.
Oh, I was very happy. The children blew me away. That's who really blew me away. Everybody else was good, but they were phenomenal. I mean, I can't recall names, but their energy still resonates with me. And it made me get back to a childlike feeling and thought. And that actually helped me with my day trading. Like, they don't even know how they impacted me. So I loved it. It was great. I think it was great format. The way you had the beginners come together, then we went back to meet the group, and the way you had it staged, and having the Think and Grow Rich books for sale because I needed to get another one. So I really enjoyed myself, and I'm glad that you had it. I have on my wall over here taped up my letter to self, so it stays next to my day trading station so that I'm constantly reminded to keep that goal into my perspection, because it's actually coming up here on by the end of this month. So I got some work to hustle on.
Exactly. And Galen's laughing because for those of you that don't know, as a part of the McNeill Factor Mastermind system, I have what I call a letter to self. And we use it as a part of the International Mastermind Association, where you actually write a letter to yourself. And in 6 months, we mail that letter back to you. And so, Galen, if you'd share your comments about when you received your first letter, please.
Yeah, the first time I went to this conference, I was really just kind of following the steps because, Miss Ann's kind of scary. So I was just doing it because she said I needed to do it. And so I made all these grand commitments of what I was going to accomplish throughout the year. And 6 months into the year, I get this envelope in the mail, and it's from Think and Grow Rich International Mastermind Association. So I'm kind of nervous, right? And I open it up, And here's this letter saying these things that I was going to have accomplished by this time. And when you know, it was in my own handwriting. So you talk about being convicted, feeling convicted. I had to get busy because I wasn't as far along as I had committed to be. So this is incredibly, incredibly powerful. And one other thing, I'm going to take one more second here, one more point of discussion, Dr. Peter. So Brittany, if you could pull up the comment from Fly Girls Manifesting, because she posted a comment. She's watching from YouTube, and this has really got me captured here. She says that this is a microwave culture, and most don't have the patience to do the work consistently. And that just got me thinking about, I come from a long lineage of folks that know how to cook, that know how to bake. And my grandmama could bake. She could cook anything, right? She could cook rocks and have you asking for seconds. And with all due respect to Duncan Hines, with all due respect to Pillsbury, you can get those things if you want something instantly, if you want something fast, if you just got a taste for something and you can't wait for it. But boy, there's nothing like getting the eggs, getting the flour, melting the butter, actually mixing it by hand. There is something that's more lasting. I can't tell you the last time I had a Duncan Hines cake. I'm sure I've had one recently, but I can tell you almost every slice of cake that I got from my grandmama. And that's what this work is. This is about doing the work. It's about understanding the ingredients that go into having something that will last. So, again, I really enjoyed that comment from Fly Girls Manifesting. And so I just had to bring that in, or else I might burst. So thank you.
And I have a point on the IMA letter. Now that you mentioned that, I didn't realize that she was going to mail that back to us until you just said that. And so, the way that I take that is, it's like when you're doing the work, when you're going into the spirit, when you're actually saying, this is what I want, this is what I want to do. And like the young lady said, you don't do the work. And then you see someone else who has accomplished what you said you was going to do. It's like as if God has put it back to you, like mailing that letter to say, hey, you better get on your game, or you're going to be missing out on what you said. And that means that you're not being true to self. So I'm glad you told me that. So now I got to really hustle.
Better get on it, man. That letter, don't let that letter come in and you're not ready.
Good stuff. Peter, I just want to mention here, Peter, this is a great point to mention that the International Mastermind Association is a place for groups, for mastermind groups to be held accountable. And so we are very excited if you are in a mastermind group and you would like to associate with us and participate with what we're doing. We are serving as an accountability on your group. There are many, many, many thousands of mastermind groups, whether they're paid or unpaid, whether they're for profit or not for profit. And individuals inside each mastermind group are held accountable by the group. But the question we want to ask is this: who is holding the group accountable for the group goals? And so that is what we're building as a part of the International Mastermind Association. And I want to also encourage all of you to consider getting certified with the Napoleon Hill Foundation as a certified coach. So if you're really interested in these principles, especially this autosuggestion chapter and this autosuggestion principle, decide what is it that you want to be known for. Write that affirmation, recite it like the book says at least twice a day, and do the work. Back to you, Peter.
Wow, the comments in the chat and from Facebook Live and from YouTube are pouring in. Anthony, you really have lit a fire under our audience for sure. They're really motivated to dive into this auto-suggestion chapter. So thank you all so much. I see Imelda, I see Doretha, I see Fly Girls Manifesting. I see lots of, I said Doretha already, just lots of different comments pouring in. So thank you so much to our audience. We see you. We really, truly appreciate you for sure. Keep the comments coming. But we're getting close to our time. We're actually getting very, very close to our time. So I have to go ahead and pass the baton again around to our angels to say, hey, what was your aha moment number one? But then how can our audience stay in touch with you? So Galen, let's start with you, sir. Tell us your aha moment, please.
Yeah, so I'm Galen Bingham, the leadership strategist, and I can be reached at galen@killglobalcoaching.com. That's KILN globalcoaching.com. And this is a really, really important chapter and principle. And I've really always understood the significance of it. But our guest today really highlighted the level of work that you've got to do. It doesn't take any work at all for you to just have a failure conscious mindset. It doesn't take any work for you to allow your life to turn gangrene. Doesn't take work at all. But if you want to invigorate the cells in your life, if you want to make sure that you're consistently going towards this vision that God has given you, then that's going to require work. And he just really highlighted for me the fact that what I thought was work probably isn't enough, right? I'm seeing some success, but not the kind of success that I believe that I was purposed to enjoy. And that means I've got to put some more work in with making sure that my mind, my self-conscious mind, is influenced in the way that it needs to be. So that's what I got from this. Definitely reach out if you believe I can help you. If you agree with my mom and you think my voice is amazing, just subscribe to Whiskey, Jazz, and Leadership Podcast. It's on any platform, and you'll get some wisdom and some great conversations with some of my guests. But this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much, Mr. Rodgers.
Good stuff, Galen. Thank you so much. And McNeill, tell us how to stay in touch with you for sure, and also some of your aha moments.
Well, my most recent aha moment is Mr. Rodgers. I have a new view now of you, Anthony. When Galen said Mr. Rodgers, my mind automatically went to Mr. Rodgers. So thank you for that, Galen. Aha number one.
Won't you be my neighbor?
Now, hold 1 second. This is the power. Even though we're joking, even though we're kidding, the power of our words, spoken, implied, even if they're felt and not spoken, this is the power of this principle. And it is so powerful. Self-talk, autosuggestion. Your subconscious mind does not know the difference between what's true and what's false. It only knows what you tell it over and over and over and over again. And what you allow others to tell it over and over and over again. Let me say that again. You see, what Anthony has done for us today is he's given us a different view and a different light on the power of self-talk when he talked about his leg, when he talked about the words that he has his children to memorize. What is it that you want to memorize? I'd like to suggest connect with me by texting the word ANN, which is my name, and at 55678. Text the word ANN at 55678, and you will receive the 6 keys to riches, which Napoleon Hill talks about. Because again, this is how you start identifying what is it that you really want. We host a clarity, self-confidence formula challenge every single month. And if you're really interested in having greater clarity in every area of your life, start with increasing your self-confidence and connect with us. Thank you, Peter. I also want to ask people to please subscribe to my YouTube. I'm working on that. And McNeill on YouTube. And back to you, Peter.
Good stuff, McNeill. Thank you so much. Anthony, once again, we thank you so much for joining us this morning. give us, give our audience here some ways that they can connect with you, sir, as we move forward.
So the audience can reach me through email only. At this time, I'm kind of closed myself off. So my email is Rodgers, ARODGERS @hotmail.com. If you're serious, you'll email me. If not, I do have social media. I do have some things, but I only close that off to the people who deal with me directly. So please feel free to email me.
Rodgers@hotmail.com.
That's correct.
Hey, thank you so much for being a guest with us this morning there, Anthony. Your insight, your journey has definitely been a blessing for us as we kind of dissected how you utilize autosuggestion for your own journey overall. So thank you so much for that. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dr. Peter A. James. I am the high performance coach, helping you to shift your mindset. You can reach me on any social media platform at Dr. Peter A. James. That's at DrPeterAJames. I'm excited for you all to be with us here every morning, same time, same channels. And if you have not picked up this Think and Grow Rich text by now, you're a little behind the curve, but it's easy to catch up and really dive into this book, specifically this chapter 3 of autosuggestion that we are talking about today. And I want to leave you with this quote as we wrap up this Think and Grow Rich live mastermind this morning. It's by the infamous Les Brown. Les Brown says, "Life is a fight for territory. Once you stop fighting for what you want, what you don't want will automatically take over." Ladies and gentlemen, have a great rest of your Saturday, a great weekend. We'll see you very soon, and take care.